Welcome to tonight's live stream. I don't anticipate we're going to have a lot of people tonight. I just pulled the schedule today and actually scheduled it for today. I was going to try to do it yesterday, but I wasn't able to do it yesterday. We still have work going on in the house. Hey, Henry, how's it going? Everything's going great. But I did promise a weekly live stream. So I was my birthday on Sunday, my actual birthday. Hey, Stephanie, how's it going? Great to see you. It was my birthday on Sunday, actually my birthday day. And so I also was at a conference for end of life care. And that conference, hey, 1D K3 conference for healthcare professionals. Hey, thanks for the happy birthday, dying to retire. It was a basically it's an association called NLAC that specializes in palliative care, basically hospice. Palliative care is what they're calling it now, a little bit more politically correct, is palliative care. It's end of life type care, and it's not just end of life. It could be that you have a condition, and I know a lot of my viewers have been interested in that type of what are the options in Mexico. This is something that's starting in Mexico to become very relevant. Here in Mexico, usually, excuse me, it's fine. Here in Mexico, usually end-of-life care, you usually find a caretaker. It's very affordable as compared to the United States. But one of the things that this association is trying to do, and they're trying to spread it all to throughout Mexico, there's a hospice here in San Miguel that sponsored it. I think there's another one in Guadalajara. And what they're trying to do is start to standardize the training for these caregivers. Hey, Anna, how's it going? Great to see you. They're trying to give training to the caregivers. It's not just a matter of hiring somebody and then they have to play it by ear. What they're trying to do is develop a more robust program. So there was some doctors from UCLA that came down. They're actually professors at UCLA, and they did some training. So I was honored enough to be invited to the training, and I did some interviews. And I know that that's one of the things that a lot of people are asking about. It's something that's not really covered in most YouTube channels. We don't like to think about if we're our final days or whatever, but unfortunately, even though we don't like to think about it, a lot of people come here to Mexico. You're elderly. A lot of people have a lot of questions about they're on Medicare. What's the healthcare situation here? So I went to this training and I was able to gain some insight. I haven't done any videos, and every time I get on, I promise. And but I am still working on my house. We got the flooring in, the main flooring in, but they're still doing the patio. We've been doing a running back and forth, a lot of errands back and forth. So I haven't really had a chance to sit down on my computers and film videos. And the other problem that I have is that we have construction going on next door. Actually, construction, they're building a house next to ours. And then we have this, as a matter of fact, all day today, I even didn't think I was going to be able to make it kind of quiet here. I was going to apologize for all the noise, but they pretty much, we had to tear out flooring, and then the people next door are tearing, I don't know what they're doing with their equipment, but there's a lot of noise that's going on during the day. So I don't really get a chance to film videos, and then I'm beat by the end of the day. But hopefully I can get something going pretty soon. We're hoping to have all of this project done by the middle of November. And like I said, I've been trying to keep contact with you guys through these weekly sessions. And we'll be back on track probably by next Sunday. Other than Thanksgiving and all of that stuff, we may have some changes in the schedule. But I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I know we've had some really great, engaging discussions, and I really appreciate you guys. And tonight, I didn't expect what my normal crowd or as many people in here, but I want to keep that steady communication with you guys, let you know what I'm up to, and let you know that I'm still available to answer questions and that type of thing. Um, and I'm also still available for consultations. The only thing is it may be a little bit noisy. I have done a couple lately, and it's been a kind of it's been logistically kind of interesting per se. But other than that, if you guys have any questions, one of the things that I wanted to bring up today is actually I was in a Facebook group. I'm not going to mention which one it is, but I was in a Facebook group, and in the Facebook group, someone had mentioned the INIPAM card. For all of y'all that don't know what INIPAM is, INAPAM, what that card is, it's basically a benefits card for senior citizens. And it basically is a card where you can get discounts. For example, on your bus fare, it's 50% off. Once you reach a certain age. This program was extended to residents at one point, and what happened is the government entity that sponsors this program started running out of money, and they didn't have money to print cards. This is how much in dire need they were. So they started to prioritize. For a while, it was only Mexican nationals could get this card. And after that, it was permanent residents. They kind of got rid of the temporary residents being able to get it. But then they got rid of most offices have gotten rid of the permanent residents of being able to obtain your INAPOM card. A lot of people don't understand why. They say, hey, wait, there's a lot of senior citizens here in Mexico that need the discounts because they're living on a small salary or Social Security, that type of fixed income. And one of the things that I had to explain, we need to understand here in Mexico, is that the government subsidizes a lot of things. And of course, I kind of didn't get into an argument, but I said, look, you need to understand that this program is for Mexican citizens first, and they ran out of money, so they're catering to the Mexicans first. But one of the things that is this big misconception that I always come back to, is that these misconception that foreigners hold up the economy here, or that, I live here and I contribute to the economy because I spend money here. And I understand that, and I'm not putting that down. But what people don't understand is there's a lot of things that are subsidized here in Mexico. Your electricity is subsidized. What people don't understand is when you're living here on a low fixed income, you really are a burden on the government. The government pays more than you pay in taxes going to the grocery store or whatever that might be. So, it's not these programs that are extended to residents. You need to understand that they're extending it to residents. So it's not a right, it's a privilege. So if something like that goes away, and I understand, and then someone says, well, but this is just for discounts. I just show my card and I get a discount. What you don't understand is those businesses, they get subsidized for the discount. Nobody's giving you a discount for free because you're a senior citizen. When they grab your card, the business gets subsidized. So what you don't realize is that, yes, you're getting discounts, but at the same time, those discounts are subsidized by that program. So it's not I'm just getting a card printed out so I can get my 10% at a restaurant. There's more involved in that. And that's what we need to understand, even with the electricity. Why is electricity so cheap? Because the first 500 kilowatt hours, the government pretty much almost pays for it. People don't realize that. A lot of the things are cheap here or inexpensive here because the government subsidizes that. So when you're a resident here, you need to keep that into consideration. Now, I think Anna has a question here. if you get a realtor to show you a property, are you tied to that realtor? If you find a property, is that when you engage a lawyer? Actually, Anna, you're not tied to a certain realtor. The realtors work a little bit like they do here. I mean, no, in the United, not do here. They work here like they do in the United States in a sense. Depending on where you go, there's a commission fee that usually the seller will pay the realtor. You can find buyer realtors or whatever where they represent you, but it's more common that the realtor has a listing. But they do the same thing. They split the commission if another realtor brings a client to the property. So you're not tied to a certain realtor if you want to look at properties and that type of thing. As far as engaging with a lawyer, the lawyer that you're going to engage with when you buy property would be the notario. They're attorneys, but they're the ones that they're kind of like the title company and the title company. They do everything. They search and make sure the title's fine and everything else. Usually that's after you leave some type of down payment. And then what you usually do when you leave the down payment for the house or whatever, depending, because these preventas are a little bit different, and I'll explain preventa a little bit. But like, for example, I'm selling my house. Someone wants to buy it. They put down some type of, like on our earnest money. And then we go in front of the notario, and the notario signed the contract. And then there's, of course, certain things just like in the United States where you lose your earnest money if you pull out of the contract, that type of thing. But the notario usually does all the paperwork. So, and usually the realtor will take care of getting the notario and everything else. If you want a certain notario, like for example, you have friends that tell you, hey, go to this notario, you can use your own notario. You don't have to use the one that the realtor gives you. But the notario does not represent the realtor and does not represent you. They represent the property in the sense that they do all the paperwork to make sure there's no liens on the property. They're the ones that make sure that the money gets transferred. Like if you have you're going to transfer the money to the bank, you have to give proof that you transferred the money. They even go as far as having to comply with all the money laundering aspects of purchasing property and that type of compliance. And they're the ones that can tell you, no, you can't pay this in cash, or you can pay this much in cash, or this is how much you're going to, as a matter of fact, they even figure out the taxes for the individual selling the property. And we are spending a month in Cancun, have been before, and staying in a local neighborhood. Yeah, and if that's where you want to live, yeah, it's okay to look on your own and call the number, then get a notario involved. Yes, and also what you'll find, Anna, even in my neighborhood, there's like 2 or 3 houses on sale. There's one that's by a realtor, and then there's other that just say en venta, on for sale, and they have a phone number, and that's usually a private sale. They don't want to pay a realtor. You can do a private sale. Then what you do is when you go to do the private sale, you call the number, and you say, "Oh, I want to see the house." They'll show you the house, and if it's a 2-party private party sale, the notario takes care of everything, and that's where you would make kind of your, that's where you would make your deal with the person. Would you advise doing it through a Mexican company or get a Mexican corporation? Actually, Anna, to be honest with you, here's the thing: there's a lot of big name realtor. If you're going to Cancun or San Miguel, like for example, Keller Williams is here, Century 21. There's CDR Realty that had listed my house, which we pulled out of listing. They're on a Forbes 500. There's a lot of major realty companies. The one thing that you have a good thing with going with a realty company is that they especially the big box realtors like Keller Williams and stuff like that, they try to make the experience as much like the United States. They have an escrow counts, stuff like that. So you're not just sending some guy, send the owner 100,000 pesos, and then you never see the owner again, or someone tells you they're the owner and they're not. So usually, and here's the thing, you're pretty good with a notario, basically telling you what to do and what you need, what documents you need. As a matter of fact, even as a resident, you have to get a special document that gives you permission to purchase property. Okay, a fideicomiso. Yeah, actually, Ana, if you're going to buy in Cancun, you'll probably have to get a fideicomiso. Those are usually done through a bank. But if you have a realtor that works with you, they can get all of that stuff, and the notario can help you get the fideicomiso. As a matter of fact, the fideicomiso is a trust. All of that stuff can be done through the notario, and the fideicomiso is going to be done through a Mexican bank. It's a trust, so it has to be done through a Mexican bank. So that's how you would go about doing that. I always advise people to get a realtor. It doesn't cost you anything to buy the house. It costs the seller. Of course, unless you see the house of your dreams and it's for sale by owner, then maybe you want to call the number. Or maybe you might even have a realtor that'll contact the person and say, give me 3% or 6% and I'll take care of these people are interested in your house. That doesn't really happen that often. But most of and here's the other thing, Ana, not a problem, thank you. The other thing too, Ana, most of how would you say, I'm not saying good real estate, but most of the real estate that sells is going to be sold by a realtor. For example, the houses that have moved in my neighborhood personally have all been sold by realtors. The for sale by owner, usually I've seen one of our houses in our neighborhood has been for sale by owner for the last 3 years. So, that's one of those things where, going through a realtor is going to be your best bet. And what I would suggest, Ana, not a local realtor, because a lot of times there's a lot of, and with local realtors, there's also, here's the thing in Mexico, you don't need a real estate license to sell real estate. Okay. But there's movements in Mexico. There's several real estate associations where a realtor will go through, get certified, not licensed because there's no licensing body, but they associate themselves. Our realtor's associated with this. There's two. There's another one in Cancun. I forgot the name of both of them off the top of my head, but usually the big box realtors, the well-known realtors, they're already well-known. All their realtors are certified, quote, quote, through these different associations. A lot of these associations are starting kind of like an MLS system where realtors work together and they can look at different listings from other realtors. So your best bet is to go through the realtor. Now, here's the thing. When I was talking about preventa, and you're going to see this a lot, Ana, when you go to Cancun, there's this condominium going up, and if you leave 10,000 pesos or you pay half of it, you're going to get $100,000 off the final price of the condo. Here's a problem that you run with a preventa, is that on preventas, when you're giving money, you're signing a contract, but good luck in getting it back if the company goes away. If the company doesn't complete the building, then you're out the money. Usually when you're buying a piece of real estate through a notario and everything else, you're actually securing that with, the notario makes sure the money goes where it's supposed to go and everything else. You're already buying an established piece of property. The problem with preventas is what a lot of these people do is they put up neighborhoods, condominium buildings, with a lot of promises, but then they run out of money. if they don't sell enough units or they don't collect enough pre-venta money, sometimes these companies go broke. So that's one of the things that you do. And here's the other thing too. For example, there are preventas where you want, you want to have your house built. If you're already in like next door, they're building units. They're actually building units. People actually live there. So the company's a good, legitimate company. Then maybe a preventa. Or what happened to me when I first bought a house or signed a contract thinking we were going to buy another house, a different house here in the same Zirandaro where I live. When I went to do that, it was like, oh, leave 5,000 pesos and pay 1,000 pesos a month. So we knew that if we were going to lose out on the money, it's not going to be $100,000. It's going to be like $500. And actually, we were lucky enough they even gave it back. Is one Caribbean realtors. I haven't seen Caribbean realtors, to be honest with you, in Cancun. Like I said, there's Keller Williams is real big down here in Mexico. If I'm not Century 21, I think, also has a lot of stuff. So what I would look for, even if you get a local realtor, is look for those certifications when they ask them who they're certified through. If they kind of say, well, I'm not certified through anybody, I would kind of stay away from that. And these certification courses that these associations are starting to give, make sure that the realtor is prepared and knows everything that there is to know about the notario and getting everything you need to get. So hopefully that helps, Ana. And like I said, the preventas, you can get some really good deals, but make sure that the building's three-quarter, or if it's a condo, that the building's three-quarters done. Not just we're breaking ground and here's some renders of of the building and how great it's going to be. Or maybe there's units still available for pre-sale, but people have already moved into the building. So those are the things that you need to see there. We are staying in a new neighborhood. You say if we like it, we would need a car, which we would not like to depend on having as we get older. They say use Uber. Yeah, Anna, yeah, public transportation is, and actually once you get a little bit more comfortable, public transportation is pretty decent in that area. In the Rivera Maya area, which is Cancun, Playa del Carmen, all of that area, it might be a little bit more expensive because of the tourists, or you can use Uber. The other thing that's really nice is if you get a vehicle down there, it's a free zone, so you don't have to worry about the tip, but you need to get it there. So it's kind of a catch-22 situation. But a lot of people get South Dakota plates to get a tip, get the vehicle down to Cancun, and then they just drive the vehicle there. So that's one of the things. Oh, Flying GSP. Awesome. Actually, Flying GSP, wasn't going to announce this, but actually, I don't know when you're going to, you said that be there visiting in January. On the 25th, we're shooting for having Gringos R Us and ourselves are shooting for doing something on the 25th, getting everybody together. And I know some people said they want to fly in from out of town. Also, let me know when you're in town. I should be here in January. February, I'm going to be out of town, but in January, and I always my wife and I always enjoy meeting up with viewers, and we've done it a lot of times. So if you just shoot me an email, like I said, it's info at retiredlifeinmexiconobull.com. Just send me a message and maybe we can meet up. And we get a lot of people that come down here. Dying to Retire podcast, understanding how much our home prices marked up for expats, Mexico, Guatemala, etc. I'll tell you what, Dying to Retire, it all depends. Here's the thing. There's a base price in the area. For example, there's a lot of good prices on homes in where I live. where I live, there's different levels of homes. There's everything from $150,000 condo type little apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, which were about $110,000 in U.S. dollars, all the way up to $1 million. You can live in my main neighbor, not in my neighbor. What I live in is it's basically a golf course, and there's different private neighborhoods. So one neighborhood may be in the $110,000 range, 110 to $180,000 range. Another neighborhood may be in 180,000 to 400,000. So it depends how much of a house you want. Now, there are some realties. That's what you have to be careful. I did suggest Keller Williams and all of that stuff. But some realties will tell you this house is $350,000. Okay. And they'll use U.S. money or U.S. prices or U.S. dollar prices. You want to stay away from that, because what you want to do is do the conversion to make sure that you're getting a good deal in pesos, because that house may be at the same time. Usually it's more or less. So if I say this is 4 million pesos and it's going to be, well, and let's take a 20 to 1, it's going to be $200,000 if it's 4 million pesos, right? But 4 million pesos at the exchange rate, at your exchange rate, let's say the exchange rate goes up to 25 to 1. Well, now that house, if it's 4 million pesos, now is only $190,000 or $180,000. And you got to be careful, because some of these people, what they'll do is they'll say, oh, the house is 200,000. So the houses, and here's the thing, it all depends on, it's all about location. To be honest with you, Dine to Retire, here in San Miguel, it's all about location. Where I live, it's a little bit more inexpensive. And actually more inexpensive. Like I said, you can go up to $1 million here, but it's because it's out of town. But out of town is 3 or 4 miles out of town. Everybody thinks that's like way out of town. There's a lot of people that want to live. There's a community here called Los Frailes, which is real, it's real super close to the central. People like to be able to walk to their supermarket and that type of thing. Those places are generally more expensive, and they're older houses, need a lot of work. And usually where you're going to find a big expat enclave is where you're going to find prices a little bit more expensive. But it's about location. The best thing to do is to research your location. Give the realtor your budget, and you should be good. Like I said, here in San Miguel, there's budgets everything from I would say 100,000, because I think it's 2.5 million. So it's probably 110, 120,000, all the way up on the gamut. You can find everything. Anna, we've used local buses, and that's fine with us. Yes, and the public transportation system in Cancun is really good, and it is here too. So, oh, good. Oh, cool. We would love to meet you. Yeah, just let me know. Just send me an email. So when you're going to be here, as long as I'm not busy. I've been really busy lately that I haven't even been able to. You know what? In the last 6 months, I don't think I've put out very many videos, and like I said, I do this for free, and I don't do this for, I'd love to grow my channel, but I don't want to grow it too big. I actually, believe it or not, I'm not like other YouTubers that wants 1 million subscribers. Actually, less subscribers would work better for me. Because I have this small group. I'm able to get 10 or 15 people to ask questions, and I'm not trying to field questions from 500 people like some of the big YouTubers are. So, that's one of the things. Sometimes I'm busy, but other than that, or we're traveling, or we have to go back to Monterrey to do something with my in-laws. So we have a pretty busy life. A lot of people ask me, what do you do? You're retired. You don't do anything. I'm like, trust me, we do it plenty. So, and it says, LOL, downsizing, just the wife and I, and maybe family or friends from work from time to time. Yeah, Dining to Retire. There's plenty of places. Depending on where you go to, there's plenty of price points. The only thing that I'm going to have to warn everybody on is mortgages are very uncommon here. It's usually, this is what I did was I took out of my and actually because I retired early, there's a clause for federal law enforcement where we were able to take out of our 401k without the penalty earlier than 62 or 60 or whatever, because we retire early. And I just took the money out of my 401k and just bought the house. So I don't have a rent. I don't have rent. All I have is maintenance and a yearly property tax of $300 a year. And actually, it started at $200 a year. And I've lived here 7 years and it's only gone up $100, 6 years. So I've had this house in San Miguel. So that's what I advise people in doing. There's a Moxie mortgage or something. I don't know what kind of interest rates they give, but the interest rates are high here, even if you can get a mortgage. We've lived in Florida for 20 years, like the weather in Quintana Roo. Also, flights are cheap and fast to Florida to see the kids. And we'd also, and actually, you're right there in the Caribbean, so you should be really easy to get from Cancun to Miami. I'm almost sure, and other parts of Florida too. So you're probably in a good location, Anna, and being that you're used to that weather, you're going to be great. Cervezas are on us. Well, I'll take you up on that, Flying GSP. Just let me know when you're coming. Yeah, and you also said the elevation. That is the thing. Knee problems, breathing problem, history on both sides of the family. Anna, like I said, that's one of the things about San Miguel de Allende. San Miguel de Allende has a lot of it's high up. The altitude's high up. Also, Mexico City, your altitude is higher, and people have issues with the altitude. Believe it or not, but we love the weather. When we go to Monterrey or we go to McAllen, Texas, which is at sea level, and when we're gone for a couple of weeks and we come back here, I can vouch for the fact that we have to adjust. My body still, and I'm from New Mexico, which is about the same. I think this is 6,300 feet above sea level where I'm at in San Miguel de Allende, and Santa Fe is probably a little bit higher, but about the same. But even though I come from a higher altitude area, I do suffer. $100 only the last time we owned I'm sorry, dying to retire. The last time we owned a condo, it went from $300 a month, and by the time I sold it was over $600. 15 years later, been told it is now $1,200. So that's good to hear from us. Cash is king. Yeah, and also dying to retire. Yeah, and that's what happened to my mortgages back in the U.S. But luckily, I really didn't have much of a mortgage in the U.S. But the other thing, too, about this place where I'm at, you do have to pay. But here's the thing: it's only 1,000 pesos, which is probably $50 a month, or around $50 a month, and that's your maintenance fee. You get a security guard. They maintain the area, so you do have kind of like, and if you buy a condo, you do have the condo fees, but yeah, your best bet is cash is king. Now, just remember, you're going to have a yearly $300 a month, and if you live in a private thing community, you're still going to have your monthly maintenance, but it could be anywhere from $50 a month to $100 a month. It's not that much. We have my neighborhood still being taken care of by the main, and my association fee is 5,000 pesos a year where I live in my little privada. But we're supposedly, when we get more houses, we're gonna have to pay a little bit more. So, you're back in La Paz, Blaine. Hey, how's it going? Welcome, Stephanie. We can see the northwest corner of the golf course and our community from our house. I enjoy going into town, but it is so nice and peaceful where we are. It definitely is, Stephanie. And You'll love going out. We go out for walks every single day. We have too many huskies, and it's nice and peaceful. Of course, there's traffic. A lot of the workers, there's still a lot of construction around here, but it is so peaceful out here. That's what we love about being out of town. We're only 5 minutes from the central. We have a car and we just go to the central. And as you know, we're 5 minutes from the grocery store in Lucienega. And if you really want to go to City Market, we're 10 or 15 minutes away from there. But we really love the location. But I do understand a lot of people want to live in Los Frailes, San Antonio, all of that area, which is within walking distance of the central. But the other thing, too, is a lot of people complain. And we hear fireworks right now. Dia de los Muertos is going on. So we hear fireworks in the morning all the time. There's different festivities going on. But trust me, we don't get the fireworks like other people do. We get it, but it's not that bad. So you'll love it here, Stephanie, and it's really peaceful. I'll tell you what, during the pandemic, we have a rooftop terrace. We spent the whole time on our rooftop terrace. We never felt the pandemic. We had people that would bring our food to us or, our groceries to us, and we didn't even leave our house. And Luis is leaving for Summit next week, but I have to wait until December. Well, like I said, Stephanie, let us know when you're in town. Definitely let us know. And we'll get together. So, but yeah, we love it out here and where we live. The only catch is you need a car and that type of thing. Anna, I would worry about having a car and getting hassled by the police. My son's friend didn't Cancun when visiting Cancun. Yeah, Anna, actually, I've never been harassed by the police. I've never been harassed by the cops, to be honest with you. In Cancun, yeah, I think it's a little bit more touristy. The cops kind of give a hard time to some people, or tourists. But I've never had any issue I've never had any issues at checkpoints. I've never had any issues at all with owning a car here. We just need to make sure we bought the car cash, of course. So just like Dying to Retire podcast said, cash is king here. So we bought the car, and actually we're thinking about getting a plug-in hybrid next. We've had our car for 6 years now, and we're looking at getting I don't know if anybody's familiar, but there's a company here. They're a Chinese company, but they're getting very big here in Mexico called BYD, Build Your Own Dream or Build Your Dreams. And we're thinking about getting I know if somebody put the thumbs down because it's a Chinese company, but it's right now, I'll tell you what, that's where it is. Believe it or not, I'm not, you know what? I'm not here to, China's taking over the world, and I'm not here to get into discussions of what effects it's going to have. But we do need to understand that China is taking over, and it's something that all of the world is going to have to deal with. But we were thinking, how much is car insurance in Mexico? We have a Grand Cherokee, Anna, and it costs us about 30,000 pesos a year. That's full coverage. Now I could bring it down to probably half of that. 30,000 is about $1,500 a year for insurance. I've had to do one claim. I did a video on it. And I did do a video on the accident, and I did have to do one claim, but they work just like any other insurance company, and I didn't have any issues. But it varies on how much your car is worth and everything else too. So, and also like right now, our car's paid off, or even before our car was paid off, I could have gotten just liability insurance. But it was a brand new car at the time, so we had full coverage, or we still have it, but I can put it down to liability, which is probably about half the price. And how much is a BYD car there? It depends. BYD makes electric vehicles, and they also make hybrids. The one we're looking at is a truck. It's like 950,000 pesos. And it's a truck that's a hybrid. It runs on gas and electric. And it's a small truck, like like a Ford Ranger, or I don't remember, was it the Colorado, or the what's the Tacoma? It's a small truck, but it runs on both gas and electric. But you can plug in the electric and run it on pure electric, and it's four-wheel drive. The electric, the tires in the back run by electric. The tires in the front, it's a front-wheel drive gas car. So if you have all four motors, or both motors, all four tires going at the same time, it actually does 0 to 60 faster than the Ranger Raptor. And then you have a four-wheel drive at the same time, because you have all four engines, but it also has a range. You're getting something like 50 or 60 miles to the gallon with the hybrid, if you run it in hybrid mode. And then I think it only has a 100-mile, 50-mile or 60-mile range in just pure electric mode. And then BYD makes electric vehicles, and they make vehicles that are even as low as $500,000. They have a SUV that's a hybrid, like the truck, that runs about 700,000 or 800,000 pesos. And that one kind of looks like an X6 from BMW. And right now I have a sister-in-law that works in the U.S. car industry in electric vehicles, and she's actually in the division for electric vehicles in one of the major car companies. And right now, and she does actual data analysis. And right now, believe it or not, give me another thumbs down, but China's the number one in manufacturing batteries right now for electric cars. And unfortunately, other countries haven't been able to catch up. I mean, I'm not going for China or anything. I'm just saying it's a political eventuality that all the countries are going to have to face. Without getting political, as I know you don't like doing, and I'm a Canadian, so I can't vote. What do you think is the reason the peso now at 20 and will stay like that? Well, actually, Blaine, the peso has gone up to 20 or gone down to 20 for two reasons. Right now that it was the election, the current administration, like I said, like you said, I don't like getting into politics, but the current administration, the last president, comes from a party. People will call it socialist, whatever you want to call it. But this last party believed a lot in social programs. A lot of people, you probably heard about it, Blaine, with AMLO, he was hugs, not bullets, all sorts of different things. And we were looking at another, and of course, the new president, which is the first female president of Mexico, the first female president comes from the same party. So there was a lot of investor fear. Also, one of the big things was judicial reform. One of the things they did in Mexico is they went for a lot of judicial reform. The United States got very upset because they want to go to an elected system of judges. And of course, the United States is threatening with their trade agreement. The free trade agreement's up next year. So there's been a lot of threats of, we're going to cut off free trade. We're going to cut off this. There's been a lot of threats from the Republican Party that we're going to, or Trump, whatever, I'm going to charge tariffs on everything. And even the Democratic Party has been like, we need to keep Chinese cars out of the United States, and China's moving into Mexico. So even the Biden administration, even if you get Kamala Harris that gets elected, I'm not saying who, because I don't get involved in those things. But either way around, you're going to have a little bit of a different. And then the other problem is even if you get a Democratic president in there, and then if you get Trump in there. All of the issues with the deportations, immigration, and then the problem is if you get a Democrat in there, they're going to be, and yes, they're talking about it. They're going to let everybody in, but they're going to get a lot of pressure from the American public. There's a fentanyl crisis in the United States, and it's a crisis that can't be ignored. So I think no matter which way you have it, you're going to have an administration that's very aggressive towards Mexico, either side, and you also have a more nationalistic administration right now. So there's going to be a lot of tension, and that's going to drive investor confidence down. And there's also talk that they wanted to lower the interest rates here in Mexico. The interest rates are a lot higher. So what are people going to do? They're going to invest in at 10% on a government bond. But if they start lowering those interest rates, well, I'm not going to get as much money on my investment. So I think investors have pulled back, Blaine, to be honest with you. And until we see the dynamics between the two countries, I think it's going to stay at 19 to 20 to 1, maybe even go higher, depending on what dynamics we see. And it's really hard to tell because you don't know which way it's going to go, to be honest with you. And actually, Trump got along with AMLO. So, I mean, they both loved each other. And that's why the Stay in Mexico program worked. So we don't know how the dynamics is going to be going. It was the thing with Trump and AMLO is they were both populist presidents at the time. One was on the right and one was on the left. But I guess they held that they were populist presidents in the sense they held that in common and they got along. So we don't know what's going to happen. I can't tell you. And today, in today's political climate, both in Mexico and in the United States, anything can happen. To be honest, from what I've seen, anything can happen. So that's my prediction. And even from an economic standpoint, talking to my father-in-law, he thinks it's going to stay that way for a while, and we'll just have to see what happens. Yep, our son got a Tesla. I have to agree. What do you think about the new president sending in the army to deal with the latest trouble? Is she shenanigan policy from AMLO on the cartels? Actually, Anna, here's the thing that is very interesting. The new president, she's an environmentalist. Actually, she's got a PhD in environmental science, some type of environmental science. I don't even remember what it was, but she's very educated. And she's very much concentrated on women's rights. Mexico has a lot of problems with femicide, women's rights. They're very behind in a lot of those things. And she wants to concentrate a lot on that, a lot on eco-friendly, for example, electric cars, all of that stuff, and the environment. She put her 100 top priorities, and number 100 is security. So we're probably going to see the same hands-off approach by the government on the cartels that we've seen before. I don't know how that's going to work because I was just talking about this to my wife. A lot of it has to do with, how would you say, public relations and perception. There was a Mexican president back in the 2000s. His name was Calderon, that decided that I'm going to do a war against drugs. And he basically sent in the military, and there was violence everywhere in Mexico. And people will say the Calderon administration was the most violent administration in Mexico. But subsequent administrations, you don't see a lot of stuff come out in the news, but there have been subsequent administrations that have had more homicides, more violence than the Calderon administration. But why did the Calderon administration so famous for the violence? It's because it was all over the news. It was plastered all over the news. So one of the things that we need to take into consideration is what we see and what public perception is. And AMLO, yes, he's taken a hands-off approach, but he has sent in the military when needed for public safety. And this president is still of the attitude that if you take the kid off the street and you educate him before he becomes a drug dealer, then you could save, you can reduce crime. But one of the things that we're going to see about the Army, and here's the issue with the Army. If the United States insists on sending the Army in, you're talking about a declaration of war. When a military comes in and invades another country for whatever reason, okay, the only way the U.S. military is going to come into Mexico, and I don't care how many congressmen are saying, we're going to do it, we don't care. Well, you don't tell Mexico what to do. You don't tell another country what to do. Even though the United States has told other countries what to do in the past, they usually do it by buying the country. They usually do it by giving them assistance. They usually do it by political, hey, we're not going to trade with you anymore unless you do this for us. Hey, we're going to give you money or this much money. And quite honestly, Anna, to be honest with you, without going into details, which I can't really talk about, but the U.S. military has been in Mexico for years, helping out the Mexican government. Everything from training. Perfect example, a public example. There's a guy, he's a YouTuber. He's not a YouTuber, but he does have a podcast, Ed Calderon. He was in a unit in Tijuana, special drug unit in Tijuana. He ended up moving to the United States. And he ended up moving to the United States, and he comes out and he gives a lot of stuff on the cartel. He belonged to a special unit that was funded by the United States. All of the money that they got for all their weapons, for all their gear, for everything, their training. He even went to Coronado and trained with the Navy SEALs. So the United States military getting involved in the drug war is not a secret, okay? And this thing about we're going to send bombs into Mexico, you send a bomb into Mexico without Mexico's authorization, that's a declaration of war. And there's a lot of political rhetoric, just like the same political rhetoric. For example, Trump saying, "I'm going to deport 1 million people." Look, I'm here to tell you that I worked in the immigration system in the United States. And the amount of money and the amount of manpower to deport 1 million people is just not possible. Okay, I mean, we could probably deport a lot of people, but it's just not possible. You would have to take all the federal law enforcement agencies combined every single day, 8 hours a day, picking people up to deport 1 million people. And so, what's practical? And what's realistic and practical is totally different than the rhetoric that's being placed by the United States. And has the military helped? And actually the Zetas, you look at the Zeta cartel, they were actually trained by the U.S. military, special forces. They were special forces in Mexico. Now they don't exist anymore. So somebody saying, we're going to send the military. Well, the military's been in Mexico for years. But they've been in Mexico on an advisory capacity. We've sent people to the United States to train them and all of that stuff. So, and I always used to make a joke when I first got here, when I used to see a lot of the police units here that were all decked out in like state-of-the-art gear. I even used to say, yeah, probably the United States paid for that. So the United States is more involved in the drug war behind closed doors than what the public media tells you. So, sorry, I meant Sheinbaum. Sheinbaum is the new president, yes. But I see, to be honest with you, we don't know what direction she's really going to go in. She's going to have a lot of issues, Anna. She's going to be getting a lot of pressure from the United States. And the United States has a couple of, I guess you might say, tricks up their sleeve right now. With the free trade agreement, there's a lot of things that can affect us, not affect us, but affect Mexico financially, that the United States can kind of use as leveraging power. So To be honest with you, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I said, even from this point, from the Mexican point, you can say all you want. Mexico can say all you want. United States, we're not going to do what you say. But at the same time, if Mexico doesn't do it, there's going to be consequences. And if Mexico's not willing to pay the consequences, then maybe their position's going to change. I don't know. Or maybe they're just going to tell the United States, we don't need you. And one of the things that people need to understand is Mexico is one of the biggest up-and-coming economies. Not only do they provide Mexico with imports and exports, or they export goods to Mexico, but they're becoming an exporter to all of Latin America. They're the biggest economy in Latin America right now. So, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what if Mexico just turns its back on the United States and says, see ya, we don't need your trade? The United States is going to suffer. And, when they talk about let's put tariffs on everything, what people in the United States don't understand, do you understand that your iPhone is made in a Asian country and would be affected? Your iPhone would cost, if they start putting duties on everything, your iPhone is going to cost double of what it costs right now. We all talk about we want to keep China out of the United States. We want to keep blah, 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 put those tariffs, put that stuff on there. Yeah, but you don't understand your iPhone's made in China. So you're going to also complain that your iPhone costs 3 times as much? So those are things that we really need to take into consideration when we're talking about Mexico and its relationship with the United States. I'm not here to champion China. I'm not here to champion Mexico. I'm not here to champion the United States because I don't like getting involved in politics or political things. But we all have to understand that the reality and the rhetoric are 2 different things. And this is what I try to bring you when I try to bring you the reality. This is the reality. We've seen this even in, and one of the things that people don't really realize is some of the subtle political punches that each country takes at each other. Right now, people are struggling to meet the financial requirements to move to Mexico. Why do you think Mexico keeps these financial requirements high? Because they can, and because they are going by the minimum wage, and because they're saying we can. And you want to tell us what to do? Well, guess what? Or you want to tell us to try to keep Venezuelans from coming into Mexico? Well, then we're gonna enforce the same rules on Americans, on Canadians. And so you got to see those are little punches that are pulled. Oh yeah, all you Americans that want to come down here, we're going to make it $4,000, $5,000 a month. And you no longer can come here on Social Security unless, of course, there's a regularization program. And then behind the scenes, but we got this other program that you can come in. Okay, but it sends a message to the other country that we're not going to put up with your stuff. And all of that, and I know this because I played with the State Department before, and I saw this when I was in Brazil. There's these little things that are done with each other that, it's not a big deal, but it's a way of poking each other. I'll give you an example in Brazil. When the United States started taking biometrics, they started putting the little fingerprint machines when you enter into the United States. Brazil said, nope, that's reciprocity. Guess what? Since Brazilians need visas, so do U.S. citizens. So if you go to Brazil, you need a visa. And then what did Brazil do when they put biometrics in there? Brazil said, we're going to take every American's fingerprints coming in because they're taking our citizens' fingerprints. And it caused lines because guess what? Brazil didn't have an automated system. So they were literally taking fingerprints with ink. And they had boxes and boxes full of fingerprints that went nowhere. But we're going to make the Americans take fingerprints because we're going to send a message back to the United States that if you're going to take fingerprints, we're going to take fingerprints also. And you might think it's not a big deal, but all of the Americans that were getting upset because the line was 4 hours long because they were taking everybody's fingerprints, it gets back to the country. So those are the little things that that these countries do to each other. And those are the things that we don't see. A lot of times we complain about the high residency requirements, or we complain because they're only giving 90 days instead, or they're not giving 180 days. Usually there's a political reason behind that. When they were cracking down and only giving 7 days and 5 days and everything else, there were political reasons behind all of that. And that's what we need to understand. And these countries, they poke at each other. And the United States does it, and so does so does Mexico. This is something that you can't change. Yeah, like traveling to Europe is changing for Americans. Yes, it is. And actually, even Europeans, the ESTA, yes. Yes. Uh-huh. So a lot of these things are on diplomatic levels that we can't understand. Vis-a-vis, see? Yep. And like I said, a lot of these things are things that we don't understand, and that's what I'm here for, to try to explain some of these things. Sometimes I don't know the political reasons. Sometimes I do, from just what's going on, little by little. But that's what we need to understand, that a lot of this, there's a reason behind it. If Mexico, right now, give you another example, customs. It wasn't a big deal. You bring 2 laptops in. Oh, well, sometimes we'll charge you the duties. Sometimes we won't. An iPad, it's considered a phone. So we're going to let you bring your iPad and your computer in. Now, customs is, and actually is even happening in more airports. Customs is starting to say, oh no, your iPad's a computer. So if you bring a laptop and an iPad in, and then if you don't declare it, you pay a fine, and then we're going to tax you on it. And you're thinking, why all of a sudden? They didn't care last week. Well, one of the things, Anna, it goes into Mexico needs the money. Right now, they started a lot of social programs. They started a program where they're giving, talk about trying to get the kids out of the cartels. They're giving, quote, quote, scholarships to parents. They're going to extend another money that they're going to be giving to single parents. And they also, the elderly, get a check from a thing called Bienestar. All of this stuff costs the government money. So there may be a reason why, hey, this is why they're breaking down on the laptops, on bringing stuff in, and they're a little bit more strict on it. I heard that they're letting you bring in an iPad and a laptop. Last I heard, in the Cancun airport, it's 1 laptop per person, and they're counting an iPad as a computer or as a laptop. But I will tell you, Anna, here's the thing that a lot of people don't think about. Let's say you're traveling with your whole family, your husband. You got to remember, it's per person. Well, actually, it's per adult. So it's per person. So if you have an iPad and a laptop, even though it's in your bag, if you're traveling with your husband, well, one of them belongs to your husband, and one of them, you're still within your, and I tell people, remember that. It's the same thing with the amount of money you can bring. I think it's at the airports, it's $500, and on the land, it's $300. But you have a $500, or if your laptops or your iPad's worth less than $500, you can use that in your $500 allowance. That my iPad's worth $500, then therefore that's inside your allowance. But like, I had a friend of mine that was bringing in some very expensive audio recording equipment, and him and his wife are coming in, and the audio equipment was $800. Well, you're traveling with your wife, so you have $500 for you and $500 for your wife. So you have $1,000 allowance. So those are ways of not, and don't let customs fool you and say, well, it was in your bag, so both of them are, no, I'm traveling with my family, I have my husband, or I have my older child or whatever, that he can count one as his laptop. So those are the things that you, and also another thing, Anna, it's up to the discretion of the customs people, to be honest. And I haven't seen, there's some airports that don't even check. And also, this is if you get the red light, and or declare it. Any Sir Dragon X word, any words of Sir Dragon X words of wisdom, try from Guadalajara to San Miguel, assuming we made it okay from Nogales. Just stick to the toll roads. Flying GSP, we drove to Guadalajara. We didn't have any issues. The road is pretty decent. Coming from Jalisco here, just make sure you drive during the day. Take the toll roads. You should be okay. Coming from there to San Miguel. And like I said, just travel during the day and you should be good. I think it's, I don't remember how many hours it was when we went to Tequila. Well, we went to Guadalajara and then we went on the Tequila, the Jose Cuervo train. But you should have an okay. We didn't have any issues. Now, here's the thing I always tell people, just because I didn't have any issues, and that's what I always preach. I always preach this because when we talk about Laredo, just because I didn't have any issues doesn't mean that no one will have any issues, but I always advise stick to the toll roads, stick to traveling during the day. Try to check the situation. There's sometimes Facebook groups, and actually Facebook is good about translating everything now. There's Facebook groups, Guadalajara to San Miguel, Guadalajara, Monterrey, and those types of things. Kind of just browse over that. Browse over the news. If there's anything really big going on in the area, for example, Sinaloa, Mazatlan, all that area is all over the news right now because of all the fighting that's going on with the cartels. After Miles Amado was arrested, make sure you just watch that news. And if there's a lot of activity going on in that area, then I would very seriously consider not traveling at that time. That's what I do when I cross the border. The first thing, now I always say the problem with Laredo compared to Reynosa or Coahuila is that it's a little bit, Reynosa is a little bit more predictable. Laredo, violence just breaks out all of a sudden for whatever reason. It's very unpredictable. But Guadalajara, Jalisco, coming into Guanajuato has had a lot of issues. The state of Guanajuato, not Guanajuato, the town, and not San Miguel. But usually, here's the thing that I always tell people about the toll roads. They're not 1,000% safe, but you have an insurance. When you get on a toll road and you pay the toll, your car is actually insured from accidents, from robbery, all sorts of stuff. And actually, that's why you keep your receipt, or if you're using the little telepass, it should have your record that you crossed that toll road. And so usually those roads are more secure with whatever it might be, police presence and that type of thing. So, and usually the cartels stay off those main roads. So you should be fine. But always be vigilant, no matter what. Always kind of check out, have a plan for when you're going. Make sure that Google Maps doesn't take you off the beaten path. And that's another thing that is very common with Google Maps. When there's a traffic jam or whatever, it tells you, hey, I found this new route that goes through these little towns. And the next thing you know, you're in a little town that you shouldn't be in. So just be aware of those things. The other thing that I would do flying GSP, to be honest with you, there's a lot of little towns between San Miguel and Guadalajara. Don't stop at any of them. Just stop for gas on the toll road. Some of those little towns are not very safe to stop in, even though they're kind of, I wouldn't stop. We only stopped in one little town, and right away we left. We already saw the signs of this is not a good place. And it was a nice little town, to be honest with you, but just keep on the toll roads. And actually flying GSP, SGP, or I always say GSP. I've got dyslexia, I think. Your spouse, being from Nayarit, she should know. And most Mexican nationals are going to know what to look out for. And usually a lot of the advice, and they're going to have a lot of common sense when it comes to traveling, because they've already traveled in Mexico and they know what to look for. No, Blaine, actually, I'm not moving from Sunday to Tuesday. I'm keeping it on Sunday. The only reason why I didn't do it on Sunday, and I was explaining, Sunday was actually the day of my birthday. I know I've been celebrating. My wife and I have this thing that we celebrate the whole month. And actually, I started celebrating in September because we went to Merida. That was supposed to be my trip. And so, um, so what happened was, Sunday was my actual day of my birthday. So we went downtown and we celebrated. And so that's why I didn't have the Sunday. And then we still have workers in our house. So, and actually, also, Blaine, I was at a training conference for healthcare professionals for end of life care, palliative care, and hospice. And I was tied up pretty much all day at that event, and then we went out to dinner. So that's why I wasn't able to do it on Sunday. But I am sticking to Sundays as far as scheduled streams. But I will change it up if I have something something in my personal life that I have to attend to. So, hey, Buck Stops here. Great to see you. Thanks for stopping in. I'm at an hour and 16 minutes, so I should, happy 19th birthday. Yeah. Actually, my mom was 20 for many years. So, and I think on a previous live stream, I actually said that story about my son, that kept swearing that my mom was 20 years old because my mom would tell him that she was 20 years old every year. So, but I prefer 19, actually, Blaine. Thank you very much. But I'm gonna cut this off now at 1 hour. And actually, I got a decent amount of people in here finally. After some time, I was expecting a smaller crowd because this is last minute. But I'll tell you what, Blaine, and anybody else interested, just put that little notification bell on my channel, subscribe in the notification. Usually if you're subscribed, I think when I go on live, it'll tell you. Also, I try to schedule the live 24 hours in advance or the same day. So if you see a notification coming on, also my Discord server, although there's not a lot of traffic there. Hey, thanks, Rick. Thanks for dropping in. Although there's not a lot of traffic, I do have one section that every time I come out with a video, it automatically sends it to the Discord channel. So if you sign up for the Discord, just for the sake of knowing when I'm going to go live, or when I go live, it'll tell you. When I have a new video out, it'll tell you, hey, new video out by Ernie. So that's even one of the advantages. And Anna, it's always a pleasure to answer questions. It's always a pleasure to discuss anything that you guys want to discuss. And I always appreciate it, everybody, the way we help each other out. And actually, funny thing, Blaine, that you mentioned it, Gringos Are Us, well, we were talking about possibly scheduling something on the January 25th. Hey, Texas Flyboy, tell Richard I said hi, and your sister too, and hopefully everybody's doing great. But we were planning something, and they actually WhatsApped me, and they were like, "Oh, we'll see you soon on your live." And I'm like, "Actually, I'm going to the Central." So, hi Ernie, I'm attending death cafes in my area. They're gone worldwide. Great discussion, conversation. Wondering if this is the session you were party of in your area. You know what? I don't know. Laura, the session that I went to on Sunday, I think is what you're asking. It was by a group called NLAC. I don't forgot what NLAC stands for, but this group was they were doing hospice education. They've been doing it since early 2000s, and it's helping establish hospice programs and that type of thing. but I do know, and there's even I didn't even know this. There's an association here in Mexico that you can belong to. That will help you with if you're here alone and you pass away, they help with the paperwork and everything else and getting you back to your home country. Of course, you passed away, but getting your body back to the home country. And that was the only service that existed at the time. Now it's growing into more training, more education. So that's what I was at this Sunday. Yeah, by luck, you saw the notification. And thank you, Flying GSP. Drop me an email. And thanks, Texas Flyboy. Send your family my regards. And thank you, guys. And until next time, like I always say, stay safe and stay informed.